The sun was just starting to set over the small, quiet town of Eldenbrook. The streets were empty, and the air smelled faintly of wet grass from the afternoon rain. In a small, dusty garage at the edge of town, a young human named Kale was tinkering with his old hoverbike. He was not like other people in Eldenbrook. He had always been fascinated by machines and stars. He spent hours fixing broken gadgets and dreaming of faraway worlds, even though no one in the town seemed to care. Tonight, however, Kale felt something strange in the air. The sky, usually clear and peaceful, now seemed alive with a faint, shimmering light, almost like it was humming a secret tune. He paused and looked up, squinting, trying to understand what was happening. At first, he thought it was just a meteor shower, something small and harmless that would streak across the sky. But this was different. One bright object, larger than any meteor he had ever seen, fell rapidly, leaving a silver trail behind it. It crashed somewhere beyond the hills outside the town with a loud boom that shook the ground beneath Kale's feet. Dust and smoke rose into the air, and the faint hum he felt moments ago grew into a strange vibration that seemed to resonate inside his chest. Curiosity, stronger than fear, pushed him forward. He grabbed his backpack, a flashlight, and a few tools and ran toward the crash site. Every step he took made his heart beat faster, a mix of excitement and dread. Something extraordinary had landed, and Kale knew this was no ordinary meteor. When he reached the site made him stop in his tracks. Before him was a wrecked spaceship, glowing faintly with alien lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Its metal surface was smooth but covered in strange symbols and shapes that no human had ever seen. Smoke rose from its side, and sparks flickered from a damaged panel. Kale's mind raced. He had read about alien technology in old books and dreamed about it every night, but seeing it for real was something entirely different. He felt both terrified and thrilled at the same time. The ship was clearly damaged, but it was alive in a way, as if it had a consciousness. And then he noticed movement, a shadow shifting behind one of the panels. A hiss, soft but sharp, made Kale freeze. Slowly, from the wreckage, a creature emerged. It was tall, elegant, and unlike anything he had imagined. Its scales shimmered like molten metal, and large wings folded neatly against its back. It had eyes that glowed faintly like emerald fire, and yet, despite its fearsome appearance, Kale could see a flicker of pain and confusion in them. The alien dragon lady, as Kale would later think of her, moved carefully, her claws scraping lightly against the ground. She hissed softly, almost like a warning, but did not attack. Kale took a hesitant step forward, holding out a hand in peace. His mind screamed at him to run, but something inside urged him to stay. He knew, somehow, that this encounter would change his life forever. The dragon lady inspected the ship, and Kale noticed that some of the panels and glowing lights seemed to respond to her touch. Sparks jumped across circuits, and small panels realigned themselves, but it was clear she could not fix the ship alone. She looked at Kale, tilting her head curiously, and let out a low hum, almost like a question. Kale didn't understand her language, but somehow, her eyes communicated urgency and desperation. He knew she needed help, and even though he was just a young human with little experience beyond his small garage, he felt a sudden surge of courage. With careful steps, he approached the ship and began inspecting the damage. The alien technology was complex and strange, unlike anything he had seen before, but Kale's instincts guided him. He touched wires, turned screws, and adjusted panels, and slowly, a part of the ship's lights flickered back to life. The dragon lady watched closely, her glowing eyes fixed on every move Kale made. Sparks flew, panels hummed, and then a small section of the ship's console lit up completely. The dragon lady hissed happily, or at least Kale hoped it was happiness, and made a motion that seemed like a nod. But just as relief began to wash over him, a loud rumble echoed across the hills. Kale turned to see smoke rising in the distance, not from the crash, but from another unknown source. Something was coming. He felt the hair on his neck stand on end. The alien dragon lady looked tense now, her wings flicking nervously. Kale realized that helping her might not be enough. Danger was approaching fast, and they were both at risk. He swallowed hard and glanced at the ship again. Sparks still flew from some panels, and a low hum vibrated through the ground. Cale's heart raced, not from fear, but from the thrill of the unknown. He had never imagined that fixing a machine would become a fight for survival in just a few minutes. And yet, even in the face of uncertainty, he felt alive in a way he never had before. The dragon lady hissed again, softly, as if urging him to continue. Cale nodded to himself, took a deep breath, and moved closer to the ship, ready to do whatever it took to help, and maybe, just maybe, to discover a world far beyond his quiet town. As the sun disappeared completely behind the hills, the glowing spaceship cast long, eerie shadows over the field. Cale glanced toward the approaching smoke, then back at the alien creature, and realized that tonight was just the beginning. A story bigger than anything he had ever dreamed was about to unfold, and he, an ordinary young human, was right at the center of it. The air was thick with suspense, the hum of alien power vibrating under his feet, and the first step of an adventure that would change his life forever had already begun. Cale's hands trembled slightly as he worked on the strange panels of the alien spaceship. The hum of the ship had grown louder, almost as if it were breathing. He had no idea what he was touching, but somehow, his instincts told him which wires to connect and which panels to realign. Every time a light flickered back to life, the dragon lady's emerald eyes followed him, glowing brighter for a moment, almost like she was encouraging him. Cale felt a mix of fear and excitement. He was just a young human from a small town, and yet here he was, standing next to a living, breathing alien who could have crushed him in an instant if she wanted to. But she didn't. Instead, she seemed curious and maybe even grateful. The dragon lady hissed softly and extended one of her clawed hands toward Cale. He froze for a moment, unsure whether she wanted to attack or communicate. Slowly, he held his hand out, keeping it low to show he meant no harm. The dragon lady tilted her head, studying him carefully. Her scales shimmered in the fading light, shifting colors like liquid metal. She made a low, vibrating sound, almost like a question. Cale realized he didn't understand her words, but the tone carried meaning. There was intelligence there and maybe even a hint of humor. He swallowed hard, then nodded, hoping she would take it as a sign of trust. To his surprise, she leaned closer, her glowing eyes examining his small hands, as if deciding whether humans could be helpful at all. Cale noticed that some of the ship's panels responded to the dragon lady's presence. Tiny sparks jumped from one circuit to another, and a soft light glowed from the core of the ship. It was alive in a way he could barely understand. The dragon lady hissed again, this time with more urgency. She pointed to a section of the ship that was badly damaged. Cale stepped closer and examined it. The wiring looked complex, unlike anything he had seen, but he had spent countless hours fixing broken machines and gadgets. Carefully, he began adjusting the circuits, tightening screws, and connecting wires. Every move made him sweat, knowing that one wrong touch could spark a fire or worse. Yet, as he worked, the ship seemed to respond to him. Lights flickered in sequence, and the low hum turned into a steady pulse, like a heartbeat syncing with his own. While Cale worked, he kept glancing at the dragon lady. She was a mixture of strength and fragility, a powerful creature who seemed injured and vulnerable at the same time. She flexed her wings occasionally, and her tail swayed, brushing against the ground with a soft, rhythmic thump. Cale realized she had trust in him, even though he barely understood her language. That thought made him bold. He decided to speak, hoping that words might bridge the gap between human and alien. I can help you," he said, his voice shaking. The dragon lady tilted her head as if she understood some of it. Then, with a surprising gentleness, she nudged a small, glowing tool toward him with her claw. It was as if she was saying, "Use this." Cale took it carefully, his hands almost trembling with awe. Suddenly, the distant rumble from the first crash site returned, louder this time. Cale looked toward the hills and saw smoke curling in the sky. Something or someone was coming. His heart raced. The dragon lady's eyes narrowed, and she hissed sharply. Kale realized that the danger he had felt earlier was returning. But this time it was closer, more immediate. He had a choice. Run and save himself, or stay and help this alien who had somehow chosen him. Without thinking, he decided to stay. There was something about this moment, about the bond forming between them, that told him he couldn't leave. He focused on the damaged section of the ship. Sparks flew as he connected one final wire, and the panel clicked into place. The hum of the ship became a soft, steady vibration, and a section of the cockpit lit up with symbols Kale didn't understand. The Dragon Lady's eyes glowed brighter than ever, and she let out a long, low hiss that sounded almost like laughter. Kale felt a surge of pride and relief, but before he could celebrate, the ground shook violently. Another shadow appeared at the edge of the smoke, a moving shape, larger and faster than he had expected. The Dragon Lady's wings spread, and she positioned herself between Kale and the approaching threat. He had no idea what it was, but the tension in the air told him that the real danger was about to begin. For the first time, Kale realized that helping this alien was more than just fixing a machine. It was stepping into a world he had only dreamed of, a world full of danger, mysteries, and creatures beyond imagination. The Dragon Lady hissed once more, and this time, Kale understood the message clearly. We need each other. He took a deep breath, tightened his grip on the tools in his hand, and prepared for whatever was coming. The sky above darkened as the first signs of the unknown threat approached, and Kale's heart pounded with a mixture of fear, excitement, and determination. Tonight, he was no longer just a young human in a small town. He was part of something bigger, something extraordinary, and the adventure of a lifetime had only just begun. Kale's heart pounded as the shadow moved closer, cutting through the smoke like a predator hunting its prey. The hills around the crash site trembled with a low, heavy rumble, and small rocks rolled down the slopes as if the ground itself were warning him. The Dragon Lady spread her massive wings fully, casting a long, flickering shadow over Kale. Her eyes glowed like emerald fires, and her claws dug into the ground, ready to strike. Kale could see her muscles tense, and he realized that whatever was coming was dangerous, possibly unstoppable. His mind raced, trying to remember every lesson from his years of fixing machines. But this was no ordinary repair job. This was survival, and he was suddenly at the center of something much bigger than he had ever imagined. From the smoke, figures emerged, dark, armored shapes that moved with terrifying speed. Kale had no idea what they were, but he could feel the hostility radiating from them. They were not like humans. Their movements were unnatural, precise, almost mechanical. The Dragon Lady hissed sharply, spreading her wings to block the nearest figure. Kale froze for a moment, fear gripping him, but then he noticed something. The attackers seemed confused by the presence of the ship, as if it were alive and protecting itself. Sparks flew from the panels as the ship systems reacted to the danger, and Kale realized that the alien technology was somehow responding to the threat. With his heart racing, he decided to act. Using the few tools he had, he began to manipulate the ship's controls, hoping to trigger some defensive mechanism he barely understood. The attackers lunged forward suddenly, and Kale barely jumped aside in time as the Dragon Lady lashed out with her tail. The sound of claws hitting metal echoed across the field, mixing with the hiss of the ship's failing circuits. Kale felt a rush of adrenaline unlike anything he had ever known. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but something inside told him he could not. He had helped bring part of this ship back to life, and now it depended on him as much as he depended on it. With trembling hands, he worked on a panel that glowed erratically, twisting wires and pressing buttons he did not fully understand. Sparks flew across the console, and the ship emitted a loud, mechanical growl, as if warning the attackers to stay back. The Dragon Lady roared, a sound that shook the air and sent the attackers stumbling for a brief moment. Kale seized the opportunity to adjust the last critical circuit, and suddenly, a pulse of energy shot from the ship, creating a protective barrier around them. The attackers shrieked and recoiled, but they were relentless. Kale's hands shook as he prepared another adjustment, and the Dragon Lady hissed sharply, urging him to hurry. Each second felt like an eternity, and Kale could feel the sweat running down his face. He had never faced anything like this. Not in his small town, not in any of his dreams. And yet, for the first time, he felt truly alive. He was part of something extraordinary, something dangerous, and he was ready to rise to the challenge. Amid the chaos, Kale noticed that the Dragon Lady's wings were injured. One of them bent awkwardly from the crash. His stomach tightened at the thought of her vulnerability. Without thinking, he shouted over the roar of the battle, "I can help! Show me where to fix it." She tilted her head, her eyes glowing brighter, and nudged a damaged wing toward him. Trembling, Kale crawled closer and began adjusting the strange alien mechanisms that controlled it. Sparks flew dangerously close, but his hands moved carefully, guided by instinct. The wing slowly regained some strength, and the Dragon Lady flexed it experimentally, giving Kale a look that seemed almost like approval. Suddenly, one of the attackers broke through the edge of the barrier. Kale felt a surge of panic, but the Dragon Lady leapt into action, claws flashing, teeth glinting in the dim light. She struck with precision, knocking the attacker away, and Kale realized that together, they had a chance. The ship, now partially stabilized, hummed like a living creature, supporting them in the fight. Kale's fear began to mix with exhilaration. He was no longer just a young human. He was a part of this battle, a participant in something that could determine life or death. Every punch, every spark, every hiss added to the chaos, but Kale felt a strange clarity. He had found his purpose in that moment, and he was determined to see it through. As the smoke swirled and the attackers regrouped, Kale and the Dragon Lady stood side by side, battered but unbroken. The sky above them darkened further, the first stars blinking as if witnessing the struggle below. Kale's chest ached from exhaustion, but he felt an unshakable resolve. They had survived the first wave, but he knew the real challenge was only beginning. Somewhere out there, beyond the smoke and the hills, a greater danger waited. And Kale understood, with a mixture of fear and excitement, that this was just the start of an adventure that would push him beyond everything he had ever known. After the chaos of the attack, the crash site was quiet again, though the air still buzzed with tension. Smoke curled lazily from the ship's damaged panels, and the faint hum of alien machinery filled the space around Kale and the Dragon Lady. She flexed her wings slowly, scanning the horizon for further threats, while Kale's curiosity pulled him toward the ship's interior. Every inch of the spaceship was covered in strange patterns, symbols that seemed to shift subtly as he moved. He could feel a kind of energy running beneath the metal, like the ship was alive and aware of his presence. His hands itched to explore, to understand, to fix what he could, and the Dragon Lady watched him closely, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. There was a silent communication between them now, trust building without words. Inside the ship, Kale discovered compartments that opened with a faint touch, revealing tools and devices that defied explanation. Some of the gadgets floated slightly above the surface, responding to his presence as though the ship recognized him. He picked up a small orb that glowed blue and felt a vibration through his fingers. The Dragon Lady hissed softly from behind, and Kale realized she was guiding him, showing him what he could handle and what was too dangerous. He moved cautiously, connecting wires, adjusting levers, and slowly bringing more sections of the ship to life. Each spark and hum made him feel more connected to the ship, as if he were learning a secret language written in energy and light. As Kale worked, he noticed a strange console with a transparent screen that displayed images of distant stars, planets, and strange creatures. Some of the symbols seemed to match the glowing patterns on the Dragon Lady scales. He pressed a few buttons, and the images shifted, revealing a map of the galaxy, dotted with places he had never imagined. The Dragon Lady hissed in surprise, and Kale understood that she, too, was seeing the ship's secrets unfold. He realized then that this ship was not just a vessel. It was a treasure of knowledge, a key to mysteries that humans could only dream of. Excitement coursed through him, but it was tempered with caution. There was a reason the attackers had pursued the ship, and Kale knew that the secrets it held could attract danger beyond anything he had faced so far. The dragon lady moved closer, brushing against his shoulder gently, and Kale felt a strange warmth of companionship. They worked side by side, her powerful claws and wings complementing his careful human hands. As they repaired circuits and reactivated panels, Kale discovered a section of the ship that seemed to resonate only with him. When he touched it, lights blinked in response, and a low, melodic hum filled the air. The dragon lady tilted her head in curiosity, her glowing eyes reflecting both surprise and admiration. Kale realized that humans, at least certain humans, might have a connection to the ship that even she didn't fully understand. A spark of pride surged in him. He was more than just a mechanic. He was part of something extraordinary, something ancient and powerful. Just as Kale was beginning to understand more of the ship's inner workings, a sudden alarm echoed through the metallic corridors, sending a vibration through the floor. The dragon lady stiffened instantly, her wings flaring wide as she hissed sharply. Kale spun toward her, heart racing. He saw, in the distance beyond the smoke of the crash site, a movement, a large, dark shape advancing fast and deliberately. The attackers were back, stronger and more organized than before. The ship pulsed under their approach, almost as if warning Kale and the dragon lady that more danger was imminent. He felt a cold shiver run down his spine. This was no longer just about fixing a spaceship. This was about survival and understanding the incredible mysteries that now surrounded him. Kale took a deep breath, steadying his hands, and turned back to the consoles. The ship's energy responded to him, glowing brighter with every adjustment he made. The dragon lady moved to the entrance, scanning for the approaching threat, but she glanced back at him occasionally, as if saying, "We can do this together." Despite the fear, Kale felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had known. He was no longer just a young human tinkering in a quiet town. He was a vital part of a living, breathing alien ship, standing alongside a dragon lady from another world, preparing for the battles and challenges that awaited them. The hum of the ship, the glowing symbols, and the distant shadow all combined into a thrilling certainty. Their journey was only beginning, and every secret Kale uncovered would shape the adventure to come. The night sky above the crash site had turned completely dark, the first stars twinkling faintly as if watching the chaos below. Kale stood next to the dragon lady, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The attackers were no longer cautious. They came in full force, moving with terrifying speed and precision. Kale's heart pounded in his chest, and for a moment, fear threatened to paralyze him. But when he looked at the dragon lady, poised and alert, he realized that retreat was not an option. Together, they had to fight or they would both be destroyed. The alien spaceship hummed loudly under their feet, as if sensing the approaching battle, its lights flickering in warning and anticipation. Kale gripped his tools tightly, ready to turn the ship's technology into a weapon, even if he didn't fully understand it. The first wave of attackers charged forward, and the dragon lady struck with a force that made the ground tremble. Her claws cut through the air, her wings flaring wide, and Kale could see sparks of energy bouncing off the attacker's armor. He ducked as one of them lunged toward him, swinging a weapon that seemed impossible for a human to handle. But Kale's instincts kicked in. He triggered a panel on the ship, and a pulse of energy shot outward, sending the attacker flying backward. Kale's heart raced with a mix of fear and exhilaration. He was a human, yes, but for the first time he felt like a hero. Every second counted. Every movement mattered. He adjusted wires, pressed glowing buttons, and watched as the ship responded, protecting them with shields and energy pulses. Despite the chaos, Kale noticed that the dragon lady struggled with her injured wing. Fear clenched his stomach. He couldn't just fight, he had to help her too. Ducking behind a glowing panel for cover, he crawled toward her and quickly adjusted a mechanism on her wing that controlled her movement. Sparks flew dangerously close to his fingers, and the attackers took advantage of the moment, swarming around him. But the dragon lady, sensing his courage, unleashed a roar that shook the attackers back. With a powerful leap, she knocked several of them aside, buying Kale precious seconds to finish the repair. When the wing finally regained some strength, She flexed it experimentally, giving Kale a look that seemed to say, "We can do this." He nodded, though sweat poured down his face and exhaustion burned every muscle. The battle escalated further. More attackers poured in from the smoke beyond the hills, their weapons glowing ominously. Kale realized that this was no ordinary fight. The attackers were organized, coordinated, and determined. The Dragon Lady hissed sharply, sending a warning signal, and the ship responded with a surge of energy that knocked back the first wave of intruders. Kale's hands moved with lightning speed, connecting wires and pressing buttons, each action sending waves of light and power rippling across the ship's hull. He had no idea what some of the mechanisms did, but somehow, every move seemed to matter. The attackers stumbled, hesitated, and Kale felt a rush of confidence. He could make a difference. He could protect her. He could survive. Time stretched and compressed all at once as the battle raged. Kale and the Dragon Lady moved in tandem, a strange but perfect partnership of human ingenuity and alien strength. Sparks flew from the ship, claws clashed, and the night echoed with hisses, roars, and the hum of alien machinery. Kale felt fatigue pressing down, but adrenaline kept him moving. He had never imagined himself in such a moment. Here he was, a young human from a quiet town, standing shoulder to shoulder with a powerful Dragon Lady, defending a spaceship that could hold secrets of the universe. Every choice mattered. One mistake could be the end. But somehow, in the chaos, Kale felt alive, connected, and determined. Just when it seemed the attackers might overwhelm them, the ship pulsed brighter than ever, creating a protective dome that pushed the enemies back. The Dragon Lady roared in triumph, and Kale felt a surge of pride. He had helped make this possible. But even as the attackers retreated for a moment, he knew this victory was only temporary. More dangers were coming, bigger and more threatening than before. The sky above shimmered with unknown energy, and Kale realized that their fight was far from over. Yet, despite the fear, despite the chaos, a strange sense of hope blossomed in his chest. He had survived the first wave, and together with the Dragon Lady, he could face whatever came next. As the last echoes of the attackers faded into the distance, Kale leaned against the ship, panting and exhausted. The Dragon Lady folded her wings, scanning the horizon for further threats. The ship hummed quietly now, as if resting, waiting for the next moment of action. Kale looked at her, and she returned his gaze, her eyes softening. They had survived. They had fought. And Kale, the young human who had only dreamed of stars, now knew that he was capable of extraordinary things. The first battle was over, but the journey, the true adventure, was only beginning. The battlefield was quiet now, but the silence felt heavy, almost as if it were waiting to explode. Kale's hands shook from exhaustion, and his clothes were torn and scorched from sparks flying during the battle. The Dragon Lady perched beside the ship, her wings folded but alert, her emerald eyes scanning the dark horizon. Kale could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The ship, though partially repaired, was far from fully functional. If it wasn't restored soon, they would be trapped here, vulnerable to the next wave of attackers. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but he took a deep breath, reminding himself of what he had already accomplished. He was not just a young human anymore. He was someone who could make a difference. And now the ultimate challenge awaited. The core of the ship pulsed erratically, flickering with unstable energy. Kale realized that this was the key to fully restoring the ship. He had only seconds to stabilize it, or everything they had fought for would be lost. The Dragon Lady hissed sharply, nudging him forward as if to say, "This is it. You can do it." Kale's hands moved over the complex alien controls, twisting levers, connecting wires, pressing buttons, and adjusting glowing circuits he barely understood. Sparks flew dangerously close, sending tiny jolts of electricity across his arms, but he ignored the pain. Every connection he made caused the ship to hum louder, responding to his touch as if it recognized his courage. His heart pounded in his chest. Failure was not an option. Suddenly, the attackers reappeared, faster and more aggressive than ever. They charged toward the ship like shadows in the dark, weapons raised and glowing ominously. Cale's mind raced. He could not fight them all with his bare hands. He had to focus on the ship. The dragon lady roared, spreading her wings wide and striking with precision, knocking several attackers aside. Cale used the distraction to move closer to the ship's core. He could feel energy crackling in the air, vibrations running through the metal floor beneath his feet. One wrong move could destroy the ship or him. His hands shook, but he forced himself to focus. He had repaired machinery before, but never anything like this. Every circuit, every glowing panel, every humming wire mattered. One mistake and all would be lost. Time seemed to stretch as Cale worked, each second filled with tension. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the attackers continued their relentless assault. But Cale blocked them out, concentrating on the ship. He adjusted one panel, then another, then twisted a lever that made the core pulse brighter. The ship responded, lights running along its surface like veins of energy, humming in resonance with his heartbeat. The dragon lady hissed in approval, encouraging him silently. Cale could feel the energy of the ship flowing through him, as if it were alive and recognizing his bravery. He took a deep breath and made the final adjustment, connecting a glowing crystal to the main console. The ship shuddered violently, sparks flying everywhere, and then silence. A soft, steady hum replaced the chaos. The ship's lights glowed brightly, radiating power and stability. Cale stepped back, his chest heaving, and looked at the dragon lady. Her eyes were wide with surprise, then slowly softened into a look of admiration and relief. They had done it. The attackers, sensing the restored power of the ship, retreated into the darkness, leaving the crash site quiet once again. Cale felt a wave of exhaustion, but also an immense sense of accomplishment. He had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and had emerged victorious. He was no longer just a human from a small town. He was a hero in his own right, a part of something greater than he could have ever imagined. The dragon lady approached him, lowering her massive head to meet his gaze. Cale felt a strange connection as she hissed softly, a sound of gratitude and recognition. He realized that their bond had grown stronger through this trial, built on trust, courage, and the shared fight to survive. The ship now glowed steadily behind them, alive and powerful, ready to carry them wherever they needed to go. Cale smiled despite his exhaustion. He had faced the ultimate challenge and succeeded. Together, he and the dragon lady had proven that courage, intelligence, and teamwork could overcome even the greatest dangers. As the stars shimmered overhead, Cale and the dragon lady stood side by side, the ship's hum filling the air like a heartbeat. Cale knew that more adventures awaited, more mysteries to uncover, but for now, he allowed himself a moment of triumph. He had saved the ship, survived the attackers, and forged an unbreakable bond with a creature from another world. The ultimate fix was complete, and with it came a profound lesson. Even an ordinary human could achieve extraordinary things when courage and heart were combined. Cale's journey was far from over, but he had taken the first step into a universe of infinite possibilities, ready to face whatever came next with bravery, wisdom, and hope. The battle was over. The night air was calm, broken only by the soft hum of the fully repaired spaceship. Cale leaned against the ship, exhausted but exhilarated. His hands were scratched, his clothes torn, but a smile spread across his face. He had done it. He had survived attacks, repaired alien technology beyond anything he could have imagined, and stood alongside a powerful dragon lady from another world. The stars above twinkled gently, as if applauding his courage. He looked at the dragon lady, who now stood peacefully beside him, her wings folded and her eyes glowing softly. She had fought alongside him, trusted him, and somehow, in the chaos of danger, formed a bond stronger than words could express. The dragon lady stepped closer, nudging Cale gently with her snout. In her eyes, Cale could see gratitude, respect, and a hint of sadness. He knew what was coming. She needed to leave, to continue her journey across the stars. Cale's heart tightened, but he nodded, understanding that this was not an ending. It was a beginning of something larger. The ship's engines pulsed with renewed energy, lights glowing across its sleek surface. Cale realized that the adventure they had shared would stay with him forever. He had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and he had proven that even a young human could rise to greatness when courage, intelligence, and heart came together. Before she left, the Dragon Lady lowered a small, glowing object into Cale's hands. It was a gift, a token of trust and friendship, pulsing with the same energy as the ship. Cale felt a warmth spread through him as he held it, realizing it was more than a tool. It was a symbol of bravery, partnership, and the infinite possibilities that awaited him beyond his quiet town. He looked up at her, and for a brief moment, their eyes met in silent understanding. Then, with a powerful beat of her wings, the Dragon Lady lifted into the sky. The spaceship followed, glowing brightly against the dark horizon. Cale watched as they disappeared among the stars, feeling a mix of awe, pride, and anticipation for what the universe might hold. As the last light of the spaceship vanished into the distance, Cale turned back to his small town, now seeing it in a new light. He was no longer just a young human tinkering with machines. He was someone who had faced the impossible and emerged stronger, braver, and wiser. The stars above reminded him that there was a whole universe waiting, full of mysteries and adventures. Cale smiled, feeling a spark of hope and determination. Whatever came next, he knew he had the courage to face it. The world was bigger than he had ever imagined, and he was ready to explore it. Cale's adventure had ended for now, but the story had left a message. Courage, intelligence, and heart could overcome even the greatest challenges. Even the smallest human could make a difference in a universe far larger than themselves. He turned toward his home, carrying the glowing gift and the memory of a Dragon Lady who had changed his life forever. He whispered softly to himself, a promise to the stars. One day, I'll see you again. And with that thought, he walked forward, ready to embrace the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Cale's story, though complete, was a reminder to all who watched. No matter how small or ordinary you feel, bravery and determination can take you farther than you ever imagined. And for those who followed his journey, a simple truth lingered in the heart. Adventure waits for those willing to take the first step, and the universe always rewards courage and hope.